Hello and welcome back to Global Chessboard, where we keep you up to date with the latest world leaders news. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more news. The proposed White House expansion project administration has released architectural renderings for a roughly $400 million addition that would include a 90,000 square foot ballroom and event space. According to officials, the purpose is to modernize state hosting capabilities, reduce reliance on temporary outdoor structures used for large events, and expand capacity for diplomatic functions and ceremonial gatherings. Historically, large White House expansions are rare. Major structural changes typically require coordination between the executive branch, the National Park Service, the Commission of Fine Arts, and congressional appropriations committees. While the White House complex has undergone renovations over decades, a project of this size would require significant oversight and funding approval from Congress. Supporters argue that the White House frequently hosts foreign dignitaries and large state events, and that expanded facilities could improve logistics and security planning. Critics question the timing and cost, especially amid ongoing debates about federal spending levels and long-term deficit projections. At this stage, the proposal reflects executive priorities but would still need legislative backing before construction could move forward. Turning to foreign policy, the administration has announced the formation of what it calls a Board of Peace. This initiative is described as an advisory body focused on post-conflict reconstruction strategy, particularly related to Gaza, and on outlining potential stabilization frameworks that could involve international partners. Administration officials have indicated the board will include diplomats, security experts, and economic advisors tasked with evaluating reconstruction funding mechanisms and governance support strategies. This initiative comes at a time when U.S. foreign policy is balancing multiple global tensions, including Middle East stability, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, and shifting alliance dynamics within NATO. Advisory boards can shape policy direction and messaging, but they do not have direct operational authority. Any large-scale reconstruction effort would require congressional appropriations, international cooperation, and coordination with multilateral institutions. Analysts note that long-term success in post-conflict reconstruction often depends on sustained funding commitments and regional political buy-in. Immigration policy remains one of the administration's most prominent domestic priorities. Reports indicate federal officials are planning to allocate more than $38 billion to expand detention and processing capacity by converting warehouses and large facilities into immigration centers. The stated goal is to increase detention space, speed up asylum case processing, and reduce backlogs in immigration courts, which have grown significantly in recent years. According to Department of Justice data from prior years, immigration court backlogs have exceeded millions of pending cases nationwide. The administration argues that expanding infrastructure will help restore enforcement credibility and deter unlawful border crossings. However, the plan is unfolding alongside ongoing federal court cases addressing detention conditions, bond eligibility, and due process timelines. Congress will likely play a central role in determining funding levels and oversight mechanisms, particularly given the size of the proposed investment. Trade policy is another area where internal Republican dynamics are becoming visible. President Trump has continued advocating for a tariff-centered trade strategy, arguing that tariffs protect domestic industries, encourage reshoring of manufacturing, and strengthen U.S. negotiating leverage. Some Republican lawmakers, particularly those from export-heavy or agriculture-dependent states, have raised concerns about retaliatory tariffs and supply chain costs. Economists often debate tariff impacts by examining consumer price indices, manufacturing output data, and trade balance figures. While tariffs can increase costs on imported goods, supporters argue they can also incentivize domestic production under certain conditions. The president's reported warnings about potential primary challenges for lawmakers opposing tariff measures reflect the broader reality of party discipline in advancing executive priorities. Trade remains one of the defining economic pillars of this administration. Military-related appearances have also generated attention. President Trump has delivered speeches at military installations that included strong political messaging. Presidents traditionally visit bases to discuss defense policy, troop morale, and national security strategy. However, Department of Defense guidelines emphasize that active duty personnel must remain nonpartisan in official capacities. While the president is not restricted by the Hatch Act in the same way federal employees are, the broader conversation centers on preserving the perception of military neutrality in domestic political matters. In the realm of diplomacy, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has emphasized strengthening ties with Hungary and reaffirmed cooperation with Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The administration has also reiterated willingness to facilitate negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, though formal peace progress remains limited. U.S. messaging has focused on recalibrating alliances, encouraging burden sharing among NATO members, and prioritizing bilateral negotiations. These diplomatic efforts take place amid continued conflict in Eastern Europe and evolving security strategies among European allies. NATO defense spending levels, energy policy coordination, and security guarantees remain central to transatlantic discussions. The administration's diplomatic positioning reflects a mix of traditional alliance engagement and pressure for revised terms of cooperation. Looking ahead, President Trump is scheduled to deliver the 2026 State of the Union address on February 24th. Constitutionally, the State of the Union fulfills the requirement that the president periodically inform Congress about the condition of the nation and recommend measures deemed necessary. In modern practice, it serves as a legislative roadmap and messaging platform. Based on recent administration priorities, the address is expected to emphasize immigration enforcement progress, tariff strategy outcomes, energy production levels, economic growth metrics, and national security posture. It may also preview legislative proposals or funding requests for the upcoming fiscal year. The speech will likely be closely watched for signals about congressional negotiation strategies and executive branch priorities moving into the second year of the term. Economic messaging remains central to the administration's narrative. The White House has pointed to domestic energy output increases, manufacturing investment announcements, and employment figures as indicators of economic strength. At the same time, analysts continue to evaluate inflation trends, consumer purchasing power, interest rate policy from the Federal Reserve, and global trade responses. As with any administration, economic assessments vary depending on which metrics are prioritized, such as GDP growth, wage growth, labor force participation, or inflation-adjusted income. Public statements by President Trump continue to receive scrutiny from independent fact-checking organizations. Claims about border statistics, trade balances, and economic growth rates are frequently compared with data from federal agencies such as the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and Customs and Border Protection. Fact-checking has become a routine component of modern political journalism and reflects broader public demand for data verification and high-visibility leadership communications. In addition to legislative and policy priorities, the administration continues to shape regulatory policy through executive actions and agency rulemaking. Regulatory shifts in energy, environmental standards, and federal oversight procedures are often implemented through executive agencies rather than through direct congressional legislation. These regulatory changes can significantly affect industry operations and economic sectors even without new laws passed by Congress. In summary, the administration is advancing a large-scale immigration infrastructure expansion, reinforcing a tariff-centered trade strategy, promoting a new foreign policy advisory initiative, navigating internal party tensions on Capitol Hill, engaging in high-visibility military and diplomatic outreach, and preparing for a major State of the Union address. At the same time, proposals like the White House expansion project illustrate how executive priorities extend beyond immediate legislative debates to long-term institutional and symbolic initiatives. As always, many of these policies will depend on congressional funding decisions, judicial rulings, and international cooperation. The political and economic landscape remains dynamic, and developments in the coming weeks, particularly surrounding the State of the Union, will provide further clarity on the administration's direction moving forward. If you found this update useful, hit like and subscribe for more fact-based news breakdowns. Let us know in the comments which world leader's latest news you want covered next.